In this video, I'm going to go through some ground reaction force examples. So I'm using a portable force platform. I'm actually using two force platforms, one under the right foot and one under the left foot. Normally when I do my kinetic analysis drawings and notes, I use just one ground reaction force, but I thought I would go ahead and use two for this example. If I wanted to go back to my notes and just use one force, what I would do is actually add these two forces up in the particular direction that I'm interested in this case, vertical. So I have forces acting in the vertical direction under one foot, and then the force acting in the vertical direction on the other foot. I would just algebraically add those together to get the single vertical ground reaction force. All right, so I'm going to go through several examples. You should have watched the other notes at this point and the other videos on some of the details with doing the kinetic analysis. But this will hopefully help you see some of the forces and understand ground reaction force a little bit more. So let's look at this first one. This first one is just going to be shifting weight from one foot to the other. All right, so let me start here. I'll talk through some of these. Right here, this is one weight on one foot, which is about 400 newtons. This is the weight on the other foot, which is about 400 newtons too. So I've got my weight pretty evenly distributed amongst both feet. My total weight is 800 newtons, 400 on one foot, 400 on the other. So let's see where I go on which foot. And I pick up my left foot. So now all my weight is on the right foot at 800 newtons. And there's no force acting on the left foot. So this is the left foot and this is the right foot. All right, so all the force is now on the right foot. Keep playing it. I shift weight to the other foot. Now I have all the force on the left foot, 800 newtons, and no forces on the other foot, on the right foot. And you can see these other things that are going on. We're going to understand these as we go along, and some neat little, changes here. We'll go through that as well with our kinetic analysis. But right now, I just wanted to show you some examples of ground reaction forces and how the force platform's working. It's recording data in real time in this case. All right, so now this one is going to be standing, raising arms. So I'm standing still, and all I'm going to do is raise my arms upwards. And we can watch either force tracing here in terms of what's going to happen. Raise the arms up, and I get that little blip. Well, if we go back and do our PVA, notice, well, part of the reason I did this is because I'm not moving the lower extremity, but yet I'm seeing some changes in the ground reaction force, which is applied to each foot. Okay, it's applied to each foot. So by moving my arms, what I'm doing is changing the location of the center of mass. I'm moving my center mass upwards. The acceleration of the center mass is reflected by the change in force. This force is going to cause an acceleration of the center mass. Now, yes, it's a complicated movement, really. And then if I move my arms up, there's an equilateral movement on my lower extremity. Eventually, I'm pushing on the ground, and the ground is pushing back on me. Remember, to use Newton's second law, we need to identify the forces acting on the person, and then we understand that person's acceleration of the center mass. So even though I'm not moving the lower extremity, I'm moving the arms, and I'm seeing a change in the ground reaction force. All right, let's keep playing it here. Now I move my arms down. And again, I get this funny blip, which reflects an acceleration of the center of mass. If I move my arms downwards, my center of mass moves down, and I have a rate of change of velocity that causes that is linked to the acceleration, and that's caused by the ground reaction force. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is squat down. So I'm standing on the force platform, and all I'm going to do is go down to a down position. You'll have a presentation on this and some notes on this. So let's see if this looks like what is in the notes. Squat down, and I get this oscillation under both feet. Some forces less than body weight, this would be body weight, and some forces greater than body weight. Same thing on the other foot. force is less than body weight, force is greater than body weight. Exactly what we predicted in the notes. Now, how much does the force go down, how quickly it goes down, that's why we measure things. But the modeling that we did in the presentation gives you the math behind what is happening. This is all downward movement. I'm speeding up, moving downwards. I'm slowing down, moving downwards. Speeding up, moving downwards, slowing down, moving downwards. And if you go back to the notes on that presentation, you'll see that. All right, let's go. Now I'm doing the squat up, which you also have notes on. And let me go back here. I'm going to go from the squat position and stand up. How fast I do that will change how much fluctuation in force I have here. Here's speeding up going upwards, slowing down going upwards. This is all upward movement because I'm going from the down position to the up position. And this is body weight right here. Actually it's half of body weight. This is the other half of body weight. Speeding up going upwards, slowing down going upwards. To be consistent with my notes, I would just add these two up algebraically, or I could have just stood on one force platform, but I tried to get fancy. All right, let's look at the next one. This is the counter movement jump. You have notes on this as well. So I'm going to start in a standing position, go down to a squat, and then immediately jump upwards. Down, up, off in the air, and then I land and stand still. Body weight, body weight. So before the movement, after the movement. Here's that dip in force below body weight. Here's that force greater than body weight. And then eventually we go to flight phase, no ground reaction force, and then we land. And we didn't do landing, but I do have an earlier presentation on this. Then we have this big spike, and then we stand still. Same thing on the other foot, below body weight. I'm very symmetrical. I have a doctorate student looking at how symmetrical the forces are during jumping. But remember, the downward movement probably goes to about here. And this is speeding up going downwards. Right here is slowing down going downwards. Then eventually we have propulsion moving, speeding up going upwards. And then right at that last bit right here is slowing down going upwards. Then we're into the air and then we land. I think I got another jump here. Try to jump a little higher. All right, so I jumped higher. I've got a longer flight phase. Longer flight phase. This force, propulsion force, is a little higher than that one. This one's a little bit higher too. So I'm pushing on the ground harder. And interesting, I'm landing with more force too. So the higher I jump, typically, the higher my ground reaction force in landing. But it doesn't always have to be that way. We can do some things in landing that reduce that impact force. We can do some things with equipment, shoes, surfaces, what have you. Okay, so those are counter movement jumps, and you have notes on those, and that looks just like we drew up in the notes. Let's look at the next one. I'm standing on the force platform. What's it? What is it? What? Oh, okay, squat jump. All right. So I just moved downwards. That follows that same pattern we looked. I'm going to do a squat jump. So now I'm going to start in the squat position and then just jump upwards. So what's unique about this is I do not have any downward movement. I only have upward movement. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. And you'll see in the ground reaction force profile, looks quite different than the counter movement jump. There's no real, oh, there's a little dip right there. There's no real dip. Let me go back to the counter movement jump. That part right there is very apparent when we have the downward movement, because this is first speeding up, moving downwards, then slowing down, moving downwards. And that's going to cause acceleration. That's going to yield this less than body weight force. But when I start from the squat position and only go upwards, I don't have that dip, because I'm only going to be speeding up, going upwards. I'm only going to have positive acceleration. I'm only going to have forces greater than body weight during the jump phase. During the jump phase. Okay. Good to be able to distinguish between counter movement jump and squat jump. Okay, now we're in anterior-posterior direction. And I should have pointed that out earlier. All those other ones were all vertical ground reaction force. This one is now anterior posterior. In this program, they call it the parallel force. And what I'm going to do in this task is just step forward. So I'm in terrible video here. Black socks, black force platform, black surface. But I'm standing on the force platform, and I'm just going to take a step forward. Okay. Now I just have one force platform, so I'm only looking at the forces under 1 foot. I'm not showing the other one just because I wanted to illustrate this for that's consistent with the notes. So horizontal force, step forward, and here's the action here. Boom. And look at that. All forces are positive. Here's 0. All forces are positive because all I did is take a step forward. All I did was speed up moving forward. I only had a positive acceleration, no braking at all. Okay, that's starting on the force platform and taking a step forward. This is stopping on the force platform. So now I'm going to walk along and stop on the force platform. And look at those ground reaction forces. Beautiful. All negative. Why? Because I stopped on the force platform and all the forces were pushing against me to stop my forward movement. They're all negative forces. All negative forces. All right. I only slow down while moving forward, and that would be a negative acceleration and therefore a negative force. What's this one? This is anterior posterior walking. All right. This you have notes on, and when walking across the force platform, I'll have a period where I slow down and speed up during stand phase. Now, I think for the notes, I only did running. Running and walking, anterior posterior ground reaction forces will look a lot alike. Magnitudes aren't that big. This is 150 newtons. I weigh about 800 newtons, so this is not that big of a force. But I have the braking phase and the propulsion phase. I can calculate the area under this is braking impulse and propulsion impulse. All right, now I'm running, and this is the vertical, back to vertical force right here, running across the force platform. And that's a very typical ground reaction force. I should have zoomed in on this a little bit, but I wanted to show you this in real time. That's that little impact peak right there, but this is a very characteristic curve that you see in the notes that we reviewed. So that's vertical ground reaction force. Now you see those forces higher than 1200 newtons, so it's about 1300 newtons. I weigh 800 newtons, so 1.4-ish, 3-ish times body weight is that highest force. And that's not running very fast. That speed or that force magnitude will be dependent on how fast we're running, as well as what style of running we're using in terms of stride frequency, and it could be influenced by the shoes we wear or the surfaces that we run on. And notice this time, this is the stance time that's really quite short. I don't have it listed here, but it's less than half a second for sure. That time will get shorter as I run faster. And walking vertical, I did not review this in the notes, but that is very characteristic walking curve. And we can go back and talk about that at some point when we want to look at walking. But walking looks very different than running. Walking, you have your center of mass at the highest point at mid-stance, Where running, you have your center of mass at the lowest point at mid-stance. So a very distinct force. The other thing about walking is there's a period of double support where there's 2 feet in contact with the ground initially and at the end of that stance. The other foot, I don't have that on this video, but I can put the other force platform down and we would see an overlap of those 2 forces, one under 1 foot and one under the other. Okay, that's some examples for ground reaction force, showing you them in real time. I hope that is helpful. Certainly make sure to go back and look at the notes on lining up the tasks that we did in the note with the data that are here. Okay, thank you.